All right, for this next couple of examples right here, let's take a look at example 5 first. Again, your intersection, or where these lines cross, is outside the circle. Now, this was a little different just in being that this is a tangent line. It's only going to touch that circle one time. This is my secant, or it will go through and touch twice. Okay, so it's really the same formula. You're just going to multiply the whole thing by the outside. Okay, so this whole long line right here, if I start from right here, I've got the whole thing is 18 plus x right there. So that whole long line is 18 plus x. I'm going to multiply it by the outside, which was just 18. Okay, on the other side, the tangent's a little bit unique because the whole long line, which is 24, when I multiply it by the outside is also 24. So you're just going to multiply it 24 times 24, or 24 squared. All right, let's solve. So 18 times 18 gives us 324 plus 18 times x. 18 times x is just 18x. All right, that is equal to 24 times 24. 24 times 24 is 576. All right, let's go ahead. Oh, watch out. What are we doing here? So we're going to subtract our 324 from both sides of my equation. So subtract 324, and we have an 18x here is equal to 576, subtract 324, which is 252. And we're hoping that that divides really nicely by our 18 right there. Divided by 18, it does. X is equal to 14. So we're good with that one. All right, we saved example 6 for last. Now, it looks like our first two examples, so you're saying, why did we not do that the first two examples? Well, watch and learn. This is why. Okay, so we start off, notice my intersection is inside, not outside the circle, it's inside the circle. So I'm going to take part of the segment and multiply it by the other part of the segment. So you got a 12 times 10 right there is equal to, now notice right here, you're going to multiply this part of the segment. Please note it's a binomial, 2 terms multiplied to 2 terms, x plus 6. All right, now we just did, if you'll remember, clear back before circles, I know it's been a while, but remember when we multiply 2 terms, or a binomial with 2 terms, a binomial, you've got to do 4 multiplications. So this x has to distribute to both terms. Actually, let's just go ahead and do that. X times x is x squared. X times 6 is 6x. And then the -1 also has to distribute to both terms. So -1 times x is -1x. -1 times 6 is -6. Okay, so don't forget, you can simplify. Let's actually go ahead and do that. 6x minus 1x is 5x, and then you got the minus 6 right there. And 12 times 10 is 120. Now, this was the unit that we kind of just played bingo for, and we didn't do a unit for it. We didn't do any homework. We didn't do a quiz on it. But we have what we call a quadratic equation. So quadratic just means you've got something to the second power, and you've got an equation. You've got an equal sign. Well, the easiest way to solve a quadratic equation is by factoring. That's why we threw that whole unit in before. So 3 easy steps to solve by factoring. First of all, you're going to get it equal to 0. So you want your equation equal to 0. I'm going to put the 0 over here. So I'm just going to subtract 120 from both sides of my equation. All right, let's go ahead and combine some like terms. So we've got that x squared plus 5x, and then -6 subtract 120 is -126. All right, now, so step 1, I'll just put it right there. Step 1 was that. Step 2 is to factor it. And you guys all did fantastic on your factoring. So remember, we're trying to undistribute. We're trying to make 2 binomials. So if you'll notice up here, we multiplied 2 binomials together to get a trinomial. But then we had to get it equal to 0. Now we're going to go backwards. We're trying to make our trinomial turn into 2 binomials right here. So we're looking for numbers that multiply to 126 and add or in this case, really, they subtract. See that negative? So if they multiply to a negative, 1's a negative, so they're going to subtract to 5. So 126, let's see. Let's try to divide 126 by 6. And it is 6 times 21. That doesn't subtract to 5, though, so let's try maybe 12. 12 won't work because that's a 21. Let's try 126 divided by 9. Oh, that one worked. 9 times 14 gives me this 126. You guys did not memorize your 14 times tables, I bet, but we had a calculator that helped me out there. So I'm going to say that 14 times 9 gives me this 126. To make it negative, I'm going to put the negative with the 9. I want my 14 to be positive because I need them to combine to a positive number. Okay, that was step 2. Step 3, our last step, is basically we're just going to look at this. We're going to use what we call our zero product property. Because these two things multiply right here to 0, that only happens if this first one's equal to 0. So notice if I put the opposite number, so if this is a 14, if I put, they used to call them 0 pairs, I don't know what they call them now, but if I put its 0 pair or negative 14 in for x, negative 14 plus 0 is 0. So x could be negative 14. There's another number, though. This factor could also go to 0. So negative 9, the 0 pair, is positive 9. 9 subtracted 9 gives me a 0. All right. Now, this would have been the answer. When you were doing quadratics, you would have just circled that and had been done. Problem in geometry is sometimes you get an answer that doesn't really check when you're looking at it. So when you look at this nice, lovely segment right here between the radius, well, it's not the radius, the intersection point and the edge of the circle, if I were to plug in this negative 14 and add 6, I have a negative length. Are we ever going to have a length that is a negative number? No, so you tell me that is ridiculous. That is not a good answer. You really just want to circle that x is equal to 9 right there. And that is your answer. Okay, so we saved this for the last just because we had this lovely, everything was the same except for when we were solving it, instead of just having x's like we've had in everything else, we had an x squared. So we wanted to solve this one by factoring. All right, that's all the examples. Go ahead and get the assignment done, see how you do on those problems.